Welcome to the Thrive with Omu podcast, where each week I'll chat with an amazing entrepreneur on their growth journey. They'll be sharing this with us to help and encourage us to take that bold step. Hi, everyone. It's another Friday. With me today is my friend, Kyle Spyrides. He's an author and he's a custodian of the Decided Destiny movement. Hi, Kyle. It's nice to have you on my show today. How are you doing?
Hello, thank you. I'm well. Thank you for having me on. I'm very excited to be on your show, streaming back to Africa.
Yeah, I know.
Where I was born. So, yeah.
Really? What part of Africa?
Johannesburg.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And where are you now?
Perth, Western Australia. So on the West Coast.
Oh my goodness, you moved all the way.
But on the, and so I'm 6 hours away from African time zone. And then this morning I was in Sydney. So I've flown from Sydney, which is the east side, to the west side.
You love to travel, don't you?
Well, I mean, who doesn't? But it's, I think traveling is great to broaden your horizons. Great to have new experiences. Great to get your mind open. However, I've been traveling back to Sydney the last few months just to visit my grandmother. My grandmother raised me, so
awesome.
My Australian grandmother's over there. So she's just been trying to spend as much time as I can, do some shoots while I'm over there as well. So yeah.
Awesome. So tell us a bit about yourself.
Yeah, for sure. So you already know, cat's out the bag, born in Johannesburg, moved to Australia when I was 2.5 and moved to the Bondi, the quintessential Australia beach, what people think of when they think of Australia, and lived there for a couple of years. Basically what happened, my mother was an international model. So she was on, like sets with the likes of Charlize Theron. And then, so she was traveling all around the world when I was very, very young. And so she had an opportunity to come out to Australia. And when she came out to Australia, she met an Australian man. And then basically we had an opportunity to come over and live in Australia. And so that's where I've been pretty much since then. And when I was about 14, I didn't have anywhere to go. And I ended up moving in with my Australian grandparents, and they're the ones who raised me. So very, very lucky to have that opportunity. When I was 18, I had near-death experience and multiple, and then it just kind of, I guess, changed and shaped my destiny.
Okay, so I have some questions, if you don't mind just explaining. How come
I love questions.
How come you had nowhere to stay at 14?
So I had I basically was kicked out of home. So unfortunately had a very kind of rough sort of upbringing, mental, physical abuse, and not the best environment. And just mentally unstable parent, and would kind of conflict, and also probably a combination of that, and also, 14, you're kind of wanting to make your own decisions, in life, and do certain things. So I think the actual fight was over me washing my clothes. So it was something so simple, but unfortunately, or fortunately, it blew up, and then basically got kicked out of home in the middle of the night, and then I had to work out where I was going to go. So it was all great to kind of say goodbye to that era. I skipped a couple of trains and went down to Cronulla. So that's where my stepfather's parents lived, and so I knocked on their door in the middle of the night. And they came down in their gowns, and then they opened their arms, opened their doors, opened their hearts, and welcomed me in.
Oh, that's so nice.
Saving graces like angels.
Awesome. And then you
Yeah.
spent a few years with them.
Yeah, well, I lived with them for 10 years. So they basically raised me.
Oh,
They became
wow.
my most stable parents.
Oh, wow. Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
So
Bless them.
they took me in, and my grandmother was a counselor for over 60 years. And my grandfather was an architect. And they took me in. I was able to go and speak to them in their bedroom every morning, just talk to them, and just have conversations. And I didn't realize, but what was happening was a massive healing journey that I was on. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So you lived with them till you were like 24?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And then what happened next?
So my grandfather had this great saying. He said, if you want to become a man, you've got to leave the nest. So I was over in South Africa at the time. So I'd gone over because my bapur, my Greek grandfather, had passed away. And so I was over there spending some time with my father. And whilst I was there, I was trying to navigate what the next steps, where was I going to go next? Was I going to go back to my grandparents, live there? Would I live in Johannesburg with my father? Like, would I go to Europe? And I had a few friends and a few connections in Perth, Western Australia. And so I decided to come back through Perth on my way home to Sydney, meet the people, connect with some people. There was a lovely lady as well that I had the opportunity to chat with and connect with online. And
I want to hear that part.
She came highly recommended. Okay, so basically, I had I'd come out of a serious relationship, and then I was getting back into the I don't know what you call it, the saddle. I was dating again, and I was really frustrated because I just couldn't find any depth. I couldn't find any layers to any of the people that I was meeting. It seemed like only surface level. And I'm someone who kind of likes to go. I like to go to the heart straight away. I like to go deep straight away. It's not for everyone. It's probably off-putting for some people, but I'm very socially aware, so I'm not going to make people feel uncomfortable. But I do like to get deep pretty quickly. I'm not a big fan of small talk or small chat or that sort of stuff. What's the weather like? I want to go. What's your purpose? So. What's your mission? What's your spiritual beliefs?
That's going in hard.
I come out pretty hot out of the gates pretty quickly.
How do you feel? Is the weather too cold for you? None of that.
No, none of that. None of that. No. I think we're so much more than how we feel in our emotions, and so I like to investigate that. And so anyway, so I was chatting with lots of people, and and it to me, my personal opinion, I felt very shallow, and so I was really frustrated. I was like, God, being single sucks. and so I was like, this is just no joy. And then one of the family friends I had in South Africa put me in touch with their cousin in Perth. They went, oh, we've got a cousin in Perth. I went, oh, really? Wow. And then they showed me a picture of her. And so, having lunch and friends and everyone that was over, and my dad was there, got on well, and we're having lunch. And the two girls went up and got a photo of her, and she'd written this book on astrology. And so they opened up the book, and at the back was a photo of her. And as soon as I saw it, I just I was like, okay, that's it.
At least she has some depth.
Yeah, and I could see it, and I think I'm a photographer, so my whole thing was about capturing the heart and the soul and the essence. And I would sit with people for a long time, talk to them, and layer by layer, they would reveal more of their soul, their essence, who they are. And so I knew how to look into someone's eyes, and it's a great little fun thing you can try. If you're looking at photos, just cover the mouth and you'll see if someone's truly smiling, because we can smile with our face, but not smile with our eyes. But when we smile with our eyes light up.
Yeah.
So I could see that. I could see the joy. I could see the essence. I could see some depth there. And she was, in my mind, to me, she was freaking beautiful. So I was like, okay. I was like a heat-seeking missile. I was like zoned in. And then so from that point on, it was like, okay, well, how can I, Perth, Sydney, wow, that's like two other sides of the country. It's like from New York to California, or like, Russia to Ireland, maybe not as far as that, but it's opposite
But
sides
it's far,
of. Yeah. And so I went, all right, well, that's going to be difficult. So I started chatting to her online. Luckily enough, she responded. And then all of a sudden, straight away, we started sending paragraphs to each other. So, I was talking about the small talk. We straight away got into the deep talk. And I went, okay, here we go. This is something I can sink my teeth into, And so there was some content in the conversation. There was there was humor, there was depth, there was curiosity, there was, beliefs in astrology and spirituality and purpose, and just it was really colorful. So I decided to go, all right. I told her, I said, look, I'm going to book a flight back to Perth. I want to be able to see you in person, see if it's real, and then get the real experience. And then and because you don't know what you get on video. And actually, funnily enough, I don't know how this is going to make me sound, but she was holding the camera. So this is a great tip for anyone online who's looking to date, right? And this sounds a bit shallow from me, so I can be shallow as well. But she was holding the camera down low and she was wearing jumpers. So in my mind, I thought she was a little bit chubby, and I was fine with that. I didn't mind. I'm not someone who worries about that, but I just thought that she was a little bit chubby. And then when I saw her in person, she wasn't chubby, but it was just because the camera was down. And when you put the camera,
didn't do that. She probably didn't do that intentionally. I don't know how to. I don't know how to take photographs. I don't know how to take photographs. I don't know how to pose for photographs. And I have.
We were talking about virtual photos before, weren't we?
Yeah. I can't wait for them to do that, because I've met a lot of fantastic photographers and they're nowhere near where I am. So I see people take. I don't mind. I see people take pictures and they look like half their size. Yeah. And when I take pictures, I look twice my size.
Yep.
When I take them myself. And I was asking someone,
do you want me to give you some tips?
Oh, it's about the angles. I really don't mind.
Well, yes, 100%. So if you've got your phone and you're taking like a selfie, right? Mm-hmm. What you got to realize is the cameras on the phone are very, they're wide angle. So they get a lot in, right? So what happens with wide angle is if you put yourself on the edge of the lens, you expand, right? So you need to put yourself in the center of the lens.
How am I supposed
For instance,
is the lens that little thing, the little dot?
That little thing, but when you're taking a selfie, you can see your face. So you go, okay.
You try to put your face in the middle.
In the middle, and then you go, and then you go back, you pull it back, and then you've got a bit of space around you. And then, because for me, Greek people are usually. Should the camera be higher or lower? Correct. Higher.
Sorry? Higher.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Because lower will make everything look larger. Higher will make everything look smaller, right? So you don't want to be on the edges. So that's the main thing. Ideally, you'd shoot with a longer, like professional camera lens, like an 85 millimeter or 135 millimeter.
And all that, yeah.
Yeah. So, and then you get compression, but with a wide lens, you got to be careful not to be on the edge of the lens. It will enlarge. So when you're shooting a wedding, you never put the bride on the edge. She's in the center. You want to.
Why the bride and the groom as well?
Yeah, you don't want her to kill you. You don't want to be taken out.
Okay, I've learned something new today. So So it must have been really hard for you. I mean, bless your grandparents. I'm sure they did. Obviously, they did a lot to stabilize you and put you in the right frame of mind and all that. But the journey couldn't have been easy, you know.
No,
How
no.
did
So,
you how did you get out of it, and does it come back to you now? How do you cope?
that's a great question. I think one of the things, until you leave this place, your heart's going to continue beating, right? So until you leave this place, you got to keep working on yourself. And I think one of the things we might forget, okay, I got through that moment. I seem okay. And then years later, something happens or something sets us off. We don't realize that there's these little particles, whether they're memory in the cell or deep in our mind, in the recesses of our mind, those little traumas, they can still be hinged somewhere there. So you got to work on yourself to be able to rid yourself of all the junk. And we all have a lot of junk. We have a lot of waste. And that's a big focus of mine now, is if I want to go and achieve something great, or if I want to go and pick something up, pick up something new, like with the girl that I met in Perth. When I was younger, I couldn't have met her. I was carrying so much other crap. There was too much crap in my hands. Like, I couldn't put that crap down and pick her up, because we carry so much stuff. But I had near-death experiences. I had a lot of personal growth. So who I was when I was younger, I know she probably wouldn't have looked twice at me, but then because I was holding all this this waste. But by the time I saw her, I got rid of enough of it. And one of the things that, in terms of an example, would be, so basically what happened, I had major health challenge when I was 18, got put into induced coma, nearly died. My family were told that I wasn't going to make it through the night. And then I spent 6 weeks. Pardon?
What cost it? What was it?
So it was a 3 centimeter bug eating a hole into my heart.
Oh my goodness. How did he get there?
They don't know. So they had about 8 different investigations, but in the end of the day, they just said it was a 1 in a billion chance. And so I ended up in hospital, and they had to shut my body down. So they had to put me into an induced coma. So then they could wake me up. Like they could shut, because my organs were shutting down. So they wanted to get ahead of the curve. And then I spent 6 weeks in hospital, did a alkaline cleanse. My stepfather flew over from Ireland. He said, you can have the surgery right now. They're going to cut off all these major parts, put all these metal attachments on. You're going to be on all these medications for the rest of your life. Your life's going to be impacted like this. And my lifestyle was going to be very poor. And then he said, there's this thing called the alkaline diet. And I said, what's that? He said, the alkaline diet is basically a juice cleanse, and you're changing the ecosystem of the body, and you starve the bug out. It's got no sustenance. There we go. Hey, sister.
I believe in the alkaline diet. Yeah. Because when your body's when your body's acidic, it encourages anything and everything to grow. And the more acidic it is, it's like feeding it. So it just grows as fast as, you can imagine.
Yes, exactly. And I was using, I don't know if I've got the book here. There was a book, it's called The pH Miracle. So we were using recipes of the pH Miracle. And we did that. And at the 3-week mark, and I'm just talking about my individual case, so I'm not saying anything to the public.
Each person would react differently to it.
Exactly. And it's your destiny. It's your choice. It's your life to decide what direction you take. Don't let anyone else tell you what to, dictate to you what to do with it. So for me, at the 3-week mark, the bug was gone, and it was incredible. And then the bug had eaten part of the heart. So we got rid of the bug in the most non-invasive way. And then we got myself into a good position. And then a year later, I had to go and have some major surgeries. And then, it kind of changes your life, changes your whole destiny, the way you think about longevity, the way you think about everything. My one cardiologist said, you won't see your friends anymore. And I said, what do you mean? He said, well, like you're just going to be so much further ahead than them. I said, what do you mean? This one's studying to be an architect. This one's studying to be a teacher. What do you mean? He said, well, basically your life experience is going to be so much further ahead than theirs that you just won't be able to relate. Yeah. And he was right, because I couldn't go drinking and be naughty on the weekends and do all that sort of stuff every weekend, So I had to think about not just, and when you're younger, you're thinking about this year or this day, but I had to think about what about the next 60 years, which is great. So it really set me up a lot. But one of the things talking about, like, how do you get through or, that growth period, 8 years later, I was getting up and I was going for a jog, because basically in 2020, COVID came, and then all my family were worried about me and my heart and everything. And then I had a procedure coming up, and so this one number called your ejection fraction, it was down quite low and it hadn't changed in 7 years. And your ejection fraction basically measures how well your heart functions, how well it beats, like how well the engine room works. Normal people's ejection fraction's at 55 to 65. Once you get way down towards 20, you can't get on a plane. It's very, very dangerous. So mine was quite low. And so I just focused on that one number for 6 months. As soon as I heard about COVID, all sorts of stuff, I just went, I'm going to get up, listen to this great book called Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. Got me inspired, got up, went for a run every morning, did a juice, did meditation, visualization.
You run with your heart? Was it safe?
Yeah, it was safe. Well, I jogged, but yeah, it was safe. It was safe. So, and then I did it every morning, right? And great point what you said, because I would get up some mornings and I only noticed it like 3 months in. The first thing I would think about is, I hope my heart doesn't explode in my chest. And I didn't realize there was that subtle voice of like PTSD in the back, but in my mind, I thought, oh no, I got through this. I've got ahead of this. I'm not thinking about this. But in the back, there was that little bit of that fear, right? And the same thing would happen when I had a cold shower. It would be that, well, what if my heart, and then I don't know how, but one day, and you're not aware of it, but one day I was conscious of what my mind was saying. And I had to then every morning, because I was getting up at 4 a.m. and then I was going for a run, and so it was quite extreme. But anyway, I did that for 6 weeks, and then I went back and my ejection fraction changed. All the numbers changed, everything. The electrosurgeon, who's basically like a doctor for the electricity of your heart. Yeah. And he was gobsmacked. He didn't know what to do. So he was just he didn't know what to do. So I put my heart in a better position. And I mean, that's where Decide Your Destiny comes from, where the real essence comes from my grandfather. But it comes from that.
That was my next question, what this Decided Destiny movement is about.
So I wrote a book, and I just got it.
Let's see.
I just got it.
Is that a picture of you?
Yes.
Decide Your Destiny. I want a copy. Signed.
Okay, I'm sending one to you. They just came in the mail today.
Awesome.
So they're fresh. Thank you. So basically what happened was 2 months before I left school, I was sitting on the couch with my grandfather. And this was before I got sick, so I was sitting on the couch, and he just turned to me and he said, we weren't talking about anything. The sun came in, kissed the side of his face. He had this big boyish grin, and he just said, "Decide your destiny." And I said, "What, Clivey?" He said, "Decide your destiny." I said, What are you saying, mate? We're not talking about anything. He said, "Kyle, make sure that whatever you do in your life, that you decide your destiny." And then
write your own
2 months later,
don't let anyone else write it for you.
Amen, sister. Amen. That's exactly what he was saying. And I was 18. So, what happens when an 18-year-old hears wisdom?
That's a bit
went
too
one
serious.
Ear, went out the...
What's so?
Yeah. It went in one ear, went out the other. Exactly. And then 2 months later, I had that whole health experience. And then 7 years later, I went back over to Sydney, visited my grandfather, held his hand when he passed away. We got him a hospital bed, and he passed away in his house that he built because he was an architect. And it's so special, you know. It's very special to hold to experience that, because the death used to be something that the whole family experienced and was aware of, but in the West, in modern days, it's like we only want to see sexy things, you know.
Yeah.
We don't want to see the reality.
We won't feel good fast.
Yes, I like that. Yeah, feel good fast. I like that. That's a good little string. I like that. So I think seeing him pass, and I'd been so close to death multiple times. So all that fear, all that, it just released for me, because I was able to see someone pass on. And he had, a couple of days before he passed away, he was coming in and out of consciousness, right? And so my stepfather went over to him and said, "Clivey, what do you see?" And he said, "Jesus." And we all and we all went around his hospital bed, because he had the hospital bed in his lounge room, in his house, in his, you know, looking over the view. And we said, my stepfather said, "What does he look like?" Now, I don't know, maybe that would be the question that a lot of people would ask. For me personally, it wasn't the question that I would have asked. But he said, what does he look like? And Clivey said, "He's standing by the river holding with a boat for me." And then my stepfather persisted. He said, "Well, what does he look like?" And he said, "Love." And he just had this big grin on his face. And it was amazing, because it just, exactly. And it reinstated that right in the end. That's what he was seeing. You know, that's where he was going. Jesus by the boat, you know, by the river. And unfortunately, in today's day, so many things get criticized, and people are, I think, very extreme online. And there's, what do you call it? Absolutism, which is like, if something bad happens with religion, then they go, religion's terrible. Or faith, something bad happened with faith, they go, faith is terrible. There's no kind of common sense or, oh, okay, it didn't work. That's it. That's the word. You're helping me out with the words. That's what I was thinking. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh wow. So we started from way back, but I know now you're living your best life. You've kind of touched all the challenges, or well, some of the challenges you went through. But how are you able to? Because I mean, even from experience, I know that even whilst living your best life, some of those thoughts still rear their heads every now and again and all that. So you never really overcome. It's a constant conversation. How do you deal with those conversations in your head now that you've overcome? And, you know, like, what's your next step? What's your next big thing?
Yeah, great question. I think one thing we forget is that we're a part of a collective. You know, we're a part of humanity. And I think sometimes when we're dealing with those things in our head, and look, we're all individual, unique beings with our own set of challenges and traumas that have codified our existence and who we show up as. But I truly think that when we read books, when we seek out information, when we connect with people, when we look to mentors, there's so much that we can take away and connect and realize, wow, like, you know, we're so similar with what we have to face and how we try and overcome it. And that kind of touches your humanity, it touches your heart, and you're able to figure out different ways to go, okay, well, maybe I can put that trauma from my childhood down because this person put it down and they went over here, and someone else's perspective. And that's what I try and read as many books as I can, try and get great mentors and keep just educating, kind of like the next breath of air. It's like the next new experience of information that's going to vitalize me and show me some different way and going to help me put down some of my baggage and pick up something new. It's like a filing system, getting rid of some stuff. Another thing I've done recently, I don't know how your audience would appreciate this, but it's quite quirky and interesting. But it's called DNA healing. So I'm working with a lady over in the US on Zoom, and she's like I wouldn't say a shaman, but she's like a spiritual lady that's able to do readings, and it's amazing some of the things that she's told me that I haven't even told her. That's not even on Facebook, so it's not like she could have got it off Facebook or anything. But she basically does DNA healing. So she goes back in my past lives and expresses them to me now, so that I can see them. I think one of the great things is to be able to. Sometimes we labor on them too much. We think about them. They come up too much. We put too much of our current attention on them. But the future is brighter and bigger than the past. And so for me, it's about putting that in the past and leaving that in the past and then looking ahead. And you look ahead long enough, you don't have time. You don't have, to deliberate over all the past, all the trauma, all the hurt, It's, well, hang on a minute. Like, I'm not ignoring that, but look at what I'm creating over here. Like, this creation needs my energy.
Absolutely.
It needs my passion. It needs my full brain power and ability. All of us beings have such potential and rich resources and strength and ability and creativity. And if we've got half of it in the past, then we're only going to build half a castle, So that's how I look at it.
Wow. That's deep. That's deep work.
I told you we were going to go deep.
That's true. You did. You have a way of dragging people, don't you? Don't you?
Well, I hope it's not dragging. That sounds pretty intense.
It's been amazing. Intense. Intense is actually the word. Intense is the right word. It's been quite intense talking to you.
Maybe next time I can come over.
I look forward to having you again, so you let us know how well the book has done. I can't wait to read the book.
Yes.
And I wouldn't say anything.
I wish I could just pass it to you.
I know. We're going to have a chat later. I'll think of the best way to send it, and the fastest way as well, because Australia is quite a distance.
It is. It's going to have to maybe go on a few planes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Kyle, for coming on my podcast. And I look forward to connecting with you. And also for my listeners who want to connect with Kyle, I'll put his contact in the notes on the podcast. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Catch you guys next week. Thank you for listening to today's episode of Thrive with Omu podcast. This is your host, Omu Obilo.